Hello everybody, What Culture Wrestling's Adam Cleary here, and this is a big one if you are one of our many viewers in the UK. Basically, haven't we all just been sat there for 30 years now, wondering when we're gonna get another pay-per-view? Yeah, I know, we get the UK exclusives and we get the UK specials and we do have our own brand of NXT now, but I'm not talking about any of that. Every time the WWF or then the WWE would come to this country and put on a special event, they were glorified house shows. They were barely canon. Things happened on them that didn't really seem to matter all that much, aside from British Bulldog hitting Stephanie in the head with a trash can, giving her the amnesia, which led to her marrying Triple H and thus the entire McMahon-Helmsley regime. But other than that, virtually nothing ever happened. Except Jacqueline's tits. And as we now know from every single autobiography that's ever been released, these big UK shows were just something for the wrestlers to get out of the way before they then went and shagged their way across Europe. Hey, basically, right, we've had a lot given to us by WWE. They have done a lot to please their UK fans, but since SummerSlam 1992, they haven't done anything that mattered, that felt important, that was substantial, that just made you care. And the thing is, SummerSlam 1992 is still an immortal moment in both the history of WWE and the history of British wrestling. Do not go and look at the undercard. You will not remember, you will think it's a lot better than it is, because it's really bad, but it didn't matter because everybody inside Wembley Stadium, all 80,000 of them, were going absolutely apeshit by the end of the night. It was just a monumental, seismic moment. Like, just in case you don't know this, my American friends, in 1992 we had only just got past the era of having 4 TV channels. That was it. I'm just about old enough to remember growing up. You had BBC One, you had BBC Two, you had ITV, and if you're allowed to watch it, you had Channel 4 as well. Like, I'm old enough to remember when Channel 5 started, and that felt like the most interesting thing that had ever happened to anybody. So when Sky Sports came along and we got to see these colourful, brilliant giants of the WWF, it was just the most magical thing ever. So to see them in the flesh in your own country was just, and they've never topped that. They've never done anything that felt as big or as important or as magic or special or anything ever since then, which is why we here in this country absolutely refuse to let go of SummerSlam 92. Like, nearly 30 years later, we just can't get over that. And we keep wondering, why have we not done that again? It was really good and we really liked it and it went down really well and it's still a famous moment for it's one of their most iconic moments, never mind one of ours. Why can't we have it again? And Triple H got asked about this once and he just said, look, it was good, but it just wasn't as big a deal as everybody who was there thinks it is. Which is basically just him just taking a nice big cup of piss, his own piss, when it goes really yellow because you've not drank enough water, and just pouring that on Bret Hart's career. There you are. Think you're good, do you? There is, of course, the more practical problem, which is just everything in the world happens live all the time now, regardless of where it's taking place. So taking one of the big 4 pay-per-views and putting it in a time zone which would put off a lot of their core audiences, yeah, I get why that's a problem. But then the game entirely changed when major titles started changing hands in Saudi Arabia, because they were glorified house shows, they were barely canon, they crowned Shane McMahon the best in the goddamn world at one of them, for fuck's sake. But if something that big can happen there, they're going to put all this money into it, all this big stage dressing, all these fireworks. If they're going to treat that seriously, then it means they can treat anywhere seriously for the right price. Let's just call a spade here. The reason big titles have started to change hands on the Saudi Arabia shows is because they're being paid incredibly well to have major titles change hands on the Saudi Arabia shows. They're Saudi paymasters. They want these to be viewed by people all over the world, and they know that won't happen if they are glorified house shows. So they need people to tune in because they think something proper is going to happen, and the only way to do that is for WWE to take them seriously. So how do you take that in Saudi Arabia and give us it here in the UK? Well, I'll show you. The reason is this. That is St James's Park, the home of Newcastle United Football Club. Now, without bogging you down in an entire other story, right now that football club is on the verge of being taken over by an assortment of investors, one of which is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're putting all the money into all of this to try and make Newcastle United a successful football team again. And you can imagine how conflicting that is to me, a man who has literally been on global news organisations to decry WWE's involvement with this government state. Now, precisely where my feelings stand on finally getting rid of the worst owner the club has ever had and maybe winning something for the first time in over 50 years whilst simultaneously handing us over to be yet another pawn in this Saudi sports washing initiative, let's call it that, I will leave for another video, but suffice to say, it's probably going to happen. In fact, it might have even happened by the time this video goes out. If it has, I will be drunk. And if that does go through, it means that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will have a 20% stake in that football team, who, as you can see, are just a mere 20-minute walk from my flat. It means they will finally have gotten themselves a slice of the Premier League pie, which is, and no disrespect to WWE here, a far bigger deal for the Western world than simply doing some wrestling shows. If you think I'm oversimplifying that, by the way, I'm not. Like, oh, come on, just because the Saudi investment fund's getting involved with this particular thing doesn't mean the monarch himself's going to be involved. And yes, it does, because it's an absolute monarchy. The same people putting the money into that are the same people running the country. Now, as it stands, we don't yet know what Newcastle United's role is going to be, what their relation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to be. They could be like Nike or McDonald's or one of the many companies who just have business interests in that country. Indeed, the UK has literally issued government advice advising companies in this country to go and get involved with them because they've got loads of money. And that is very different to what WWE do, which is act as a platform for them to broadcast their propaganda. Now, I really hope it's going to be the first part of that, because that would be slightly easier to swallow, but given the platform having a Premier League team affords them, it's almost certainly going to be the latter. And the thing is, Newcastle United being taken over by ambitious owners wanting to spend money is going to become a huge story in the world of football. This was a club that used to challenge for the Premier League title, used to play on Europe's top stage, but have been missing from that for 15 years now, purely because their owner has no ambition. New people sweeping in and revitalising the city, revitalising one of the greatest, most famous fan bases in the country is a story. And if Saudi Arabia are behind that, that's great PR for them. And again, this is another video entirely, but the current owners, hopefully previous by the time this goes out, have honestly hollowed out the very soul of this football club. It used to have one of the greatest atmospheres in the country, and now everybody's just so worn down and miserable by the whole thing that it's just a really joyless place to go and watch your football. But owners coming in with ambition, getting excitement back, rejuvenating the place, would bring that crowd back to life, and that is something that broadcasters across the world will want to show. And if while they're doing that, there's all these little things going around the side of the pitch saying, hey, you know that Saudi Arabia country? That's not as bad as you think it is. That's what they want. And that's the same reason they've been putting on these shows in Saudi Arabia, to try and present the country in a better light. But by putting them in that country, they've invited their own problems. Like, they've only had one women's match. There still isn't any real female presence on the card. And a lot of wrestlers, because of their religious beliefs or their political beliefs, they're not allowed to be involved either. Every time they put a show on, it raises all these questions again, which is the exact opposite of what they want. But if you were to put on one of these Saudi Arabia shows with the Saudi Arabia money and the Saudi Arabia advertising, the fireworks and the spectacle and all of that, put one of those on not in Saudi Arabia, put them on up the road there, you neatly sidestep all of these problems. Like, Sami Zayn isn't going to have a problem working in Newcastle. The crowd in Newcastle aren't going to have a problem with there being women's matches. You get the best of both worlds. A huge international event with a revitalised crowd and a giant celebration of all the great wrestling WWE can put on, with all of the great wrestlers that WWE can put on, and behind it all, with our advertising everywhere, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who, remember, aren't as bad as you think they are. Wink. Now, WWE have talked about bringing a Big Four pay-per-view back to the UK, but they know if they do it, they're going to miss out on the money they would make if they did it in the US. Financially, it's tricky, so it's never going to be a no-brainer. But gee whiz, oh, I wonder, is there some kind of nation state who've just got bottomless pockets and a relationship with WWE, and all of a sudden might just find themselves with a very, very easy to use location with a big f***ing crowd? Basically, right, WWE will never do a Big Four pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia because the crowd isn't right for that kind of event. And WWE will never do a Big Four pay-per-view in the UK because they'll lose a lot of money if they do it. So you take the country who wants it, you give them the money, and you put it in a place where it'll actually work. I ain't saying it's gonna happen, but I think it's gonna happen. And hey, that'll be fun, won't it? Me going on the news this time to decry WWE's relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, while literally the entrance music from the SummerSlam main event comes through my window. And then, of course, there is this small issue of spite to consider in all of this, because it doesn't get talked about, but Tony Khan, AEW president, he too owns a British football team. He owns Fulham, who are not in the Premier League, they're not in direct competition with Newcastle, but they are a British team and they do play them every so often. But they have a very small stadium on the banks of the River Thames in London. I think you get, like, sorry Fulham fans, 18,000 in there, 22,000. St James's gets 52,000, and there has been talk of AEW putting a show on in Craven Cottage, because 18 to 20,000 is a good crowd size for them, and it would be the first time they brought it to Britain, it'd be the first time at a football stadium, etc, etc. So WWE can just roll into St James's Park, do it before they did it, do it bigger than they did it, do it with twice the crowd that they did it with. That's very much their energy. So if there does indeed become a race to win the UK market between WWE and AEW, well, let's just say WWE's best weapon isn't NXT UK. It's their relationship with the prospective new owners of a Premier League football club. And I'm sure you can imagine this is just, I don't know what do I make of this? I don't. It's crazy this, because I've wished for 13 years to get rid of Mike Ashley, and now it looks like the man I went on the news to criticise is gonna buy it. So you could say, in a way, this is all because of me. In a way. But yes, anyway, UK wrestling fans, US wrestling fans all over the world, let me know what you made of this in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do you think WWE are going to put on a Big Four show in the UK? Because I am now resigned to it. Let us know that in the comments below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in to What Culture Wrestling. The sun's gone down while I've done this video, so hopefully the lighting doesn't look weird. Anyway, that's not really a big problem, is it? I'll see you soon. My name's Adam Cleary. Goodbye.